Hey, just so you know, we're going to get ready in just a minute. We're just checking some technical difficulties. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and start today. It's February 4th, 2025. I'm Chair Richard Becker of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission, and this is the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission meeting. Items listed on this agenda that I'm introducing may be taken out of order presented. Two or more agenda items for consideration may be combined. Any item on the agenda may be removed or related discussion may be delayed at any time. Backup material for this agenda may be obtained from Luann D. Holmes, City Clerk, at the office of the City Clerk, 495 South Main Street, second floor, or on the city's webpage at lasvegasnevada.gov. And with that, I'd like to call the meeting to order and do a roll call, please.
Chair Becker.
Present.
Vice Chair Niger. Excused. Commissioner Sherman. Here. Commissioner Armenian. Excuse Commissioner Gabre. Excuse Commissioner Howard.
Present.
Commissioner Keller.
Present.
Commissioner Martin.
Here.
Commissioner Zamora. Excuse Commissioner Burgos.
Here.
Commissioner Cornwall.
Here.
Commissioner Robinson.
Present.
Commissioner Stitt.
Present.
Commissioner Vokitz.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Agenda item number 2 is the announcement regarding compliance with the open meeting law. Are we in compliance?
We are compliant.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3, this section is for public comment. Comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, please come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed may be limited. I see no one from the public here. I would like to say Happy New Year to everyone and thank you for coming in today. We have actually a pretty excellent attendance. I'm happy to see that. Thanks. Agenda item number 4 for possible action to approve the final minutes by reference to the regular meeting of November 5th, 2024. I do know that there's going to be a couple corrections. Commissioner Sherman, would you like to?
Yes, I would like to make a correction to agenda item 8 under the section note where it states Commissioner Sherman abstained from voting as she believed the Goodman family deserved something larger named after them. I would like to request that the word larger be deleted, which was never said, and instead replace better. So I'm just asking that you delete larger, which was never said, into the meeting and replace with the word better, which was.
Great, thank you, Commissioner. I also have a small correction to make. In the same notation, instead of did not violate city policy, I was familiar with the city policy. I was more interested in the Parks Commission policy on renaming, so if we could just change city to Parks Commission, that would be satisfactory. Were there any other changes to the minutes? Great, and with that, if somebody could move to approve the minutes with the addendums, I'd appreciate it. Is there a motion?
This is Commissioner Burgos. I make a motion that we approve the minutes as changed.
Great, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
Commissioner Martin, I'm abstaining from the vote as I was not here for that meeting.
Great.
Chairman, that's certainly his prerogative. Just for the board's knowledge, the general rule that comes to the city attorney's office is you don't have to abstain if you're not here because it's a ministerial act. You're certainly allowed to abstain if you want. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. But for the future, if you'd like to vote anyway, we just tell folks, whether it's this board or the city council, that's a ministerial item, you can go ahead and vote. That's just for educational purposes. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that input. I've heard this before, too. I was going to say the same thing, so thank you. Agenda item number 5. This is a discussion for action regarding the election of Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission Chair and Vice Chair, all wards. So the way that we normally do it, every year we re-elect our Chair and Vice Chair. Currently serving as myself and Vice Chair Nygaard, who cannot be here today. If somebody would like to nominate either of us and/or put forth another nomination, we would certainly welcome it at this time.
Commissioner Martin, Ward 2, I nominate the current chair and vice chair.
I'll second.
Great. We have a motion and a second to retain Chair Becker and Vice Chair Nygaard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Great. It looks like the ayes have it. I want to thank you all. I'm honored to serve again another year. With that, I'd like to add just a small little caveat. Of course, I'm going to continue to be willing to serve in this capacity for as long as you'd like, or as long as that I'm on the commission. However, if there is somebody who has a desire to serve in the future, try to see me before the end of the year so that we can just chat, and that way, we can kind of do an informal succession planning, but that's only one-on-one. That's not like a group or anything like that. We can't do that, right? Okay, we know this stuff, right? So please do that. But anyway, I don't know how long we want a chair or vice chair to serve in any particular capacity, or if we have new blood that's anxious to take over the reins. That's something to definitely think about. I just want you to think about it this year, but I'm, like I said, very honored this year to move on forward. Moving on to agenda item number 6. A report by the Public Department of Safety regarding issues at city facilities and parks, all wards. And we have a new face today. Come on up.
Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Lieutenant Cheryl Manning with the Department of Public Safety. I will be your new liaison for Parks and Rec. So if you have anything for the marshals or need anything, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you. So the first item I'm going to go over is each ward. For Ward 1, we had 70 calls for service. Our top 3 parks where we had enforcement, either arrests or citations, was at Betty Wilson, Gary Dexter, and Bob Baskin. The top violations in those parks are trespassing, warrants, or park violations and warrants. For Ward 2, we had 34 calls for service. Our top 2 parks in Ward 2 was Bruce Trent Park and Kellogg's Air. Again, park violation and narcotics is what was enforced in those. For Ward 3, we had 195 calls for service. At Justice Leavitt Park, Selby, and Rafael Rivera were our top 3 parks. Again, park violations and warrants, or park violations and lodging without consent is what we were enforcing. For Ward 4, we had 76 call for service at Buskin, Mountain Ridge Park, and Durango Hills Park and Golf Course. Again, park violations, fictitious license plate, and again, park violations. In Ward 5, we had 132 calls for service. At Lorenzi, Ed Fountain, and Ethel Pearson were our top 3 parks where we had enforcement. Again, park violations, lodging without consent, warrants, wrongful possession of shopping cart, and other park violations. And in Ward 6, our biggest enforcement was at Centennial Hills Park, and we had 50 total calls for service. And just be mindful, of course, in our statistics, that does not show when our marshals are going out and doing proactive patrol. So when we're going to the parks and being present, or if we're getting out on foot and doing, community, going into the different YMCAs or different community centers, that is not reflective in our statistics. We do have a trailer cam. We've most recently moved the trailer cam in January to Doolittle Community Center, and that was in response. Metro had an ask, so we're working with them in regards to illegal activity. We do have 2 other trailer cameras. Right now, they're down for service, but we do have, we're working on getting those up and running. And in January, our department was fortunate to be able to participate in the community-oriented policing, and we participated in the Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. We were very grateful to be invited, and it was a great time. I went out there myself. It was a really good event, and we did have a booth set up where we had our marshals out there where we got to communicate and talk with the public, and also hopefully get some recruiting in as well while we were there. But it was a really great event, and we were very grateful to participate in that. That's it.
Great, that's excellent. Do I have any questions for the Deputy Marshal today? Yes, I see one. Commissioner, you?
It's Commissioner Stitt, Ward 4. I attended the event on January 4th, and it was really well done. We had Victoria Seaman there and Councilwoman Frances Polensky, and it was really a great event. Good food, good drinks, and good socializing. So I appreciate everything y'all did to make that happen. I have one question on the different parks. What is considered a park violation?
So good question. So park violations can vary. For example, parks have opening and closing times. So if somebody's there after hours, that could be a park violation. Alcohol in the park would be another violation. Weapons in a park could also be when we respond for graffiti and they're tearing up the parks. And then, of course, when somebody has, they're trying to live in the parks and have all of their items there, that would also be considered a park violation. You're welcome.
Deputy Marshal, am I correct in, I believe that generally speaking, that's what we see is that it's hours are usually the most common park violation? Is that
That's one of,
one of the most common? Okay.
correct, yes.
Okay, just going from my own
Yeah.
knowledge. I know Commissioner Keller has a question.
Hello, Commissioner Keller, Ward 3. So it looks like significantly across the board, the arrests and citations year over year are pretty high. Is that because marshals have changed maybe processes and procedures, or are we just generally seeing more people in the park that are violating these rules? Any insight there?
Well, under Chief Potts, one of the things that we try to focus on is evidence-based policing. So what we are looking at and trying to do crime deterrence is we're looking at hot spots, hot times. So what we're doing is every month we get a list of parks for every ward, and our statistics shows us what are our calls for service. So are we, for example, at Centennial Hills, if we're getting a lot of calls for service between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m., then we are strategically sending our marshals out there during those periods of time. And with the evidence-based policing, we can see when are our hot times, hot spots, hot people. So if we're seeing the same people in a park, so we'll see that type of statistic. We'll see that like especially on Fremont Street, for example. But we are looking at and trying to make sure our marshals are going out there. That's one of the things that I talk about in our briefings is we need to make sure that we're out there and present. So some of that is just based on the fact that we are deploying our marshals, and so we're finding them during the times that our statistics are showing us. And so that's part of it, is just really focusing on the evidence-based policing and trying to make sure that we are there during the times that our statistics are showing us that the crime is occurring.
I also saw Commissioner Robinson, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bob Robinson, Ward 1. Perhaps I'm being granular, but my question relates to Firefighters Memorial Park. It's a park very close to my home, and I see pedestrian traffic. Could you elaborate on what that means, please?
On that, if you wouldn't mind, I'm not entirely certain, I apologize, what that means, but I will get back with you.
Excellent. Thank you, Deputy Marshal.
I had a similar, Brian Vokes, Commissioner Ward 1. I had a similar question, but maybe a recommendation, if you can provide us just a simple list of what all these codes mean, we can put it in our books, and it would help us in the future. Just a one-pager, not a thesis, but thank you for your help.
I sure will, thank you.
Great. Any other questions today? No, I see none. Deputy Marshal, I'm sorry. Commissioner Keller.
Hi, Commissioner Keller, Ward 3 again. I have a question about the trailers, cameras being down. How long have they been down, and do you happen to know an ETA of when they'll be back?
I apologize, I don't know, but if I will find that out, and I'll also get back with you.
Great. Any other questions?
Commissioner Stitt, Ward 4. What was your name again, please, and what would be a contact number?
Yes, my name is Lieutenant Cheryl Manning, and my direct office number is 702-229-1096.
Great. Commissioners, any other? No? I think we're good today. Deputy Marshal, excellent job. Welcome, and I'm glad we'll get to see your face a few times.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. I'd now like to move to agenda item number 7, which is a report by Steve Klimp, Parks and Grounds Maintenance Manager, regarding park maintenance updates for all wards.
Good afternoon, Steve Glimp, Parks and Grounds Maintenance Manager. Just have a quick update on some projects we've been doing over the winter. Ward 1, we've been replacing all the ball field safety fence caps. That's at Doc Romeo. It's a pretty large project. It's all done now, though. Angel Park, we've been installing cement bollards around the perimeter where the park didn't have any, and this is just to keep people from driving into the parks. We've had a few occasions in a couple wards where folks have driven into the parks, done donuts in the grass, stuff like that. So, East Las Vegas Family Park, along the wash there, we had to kind of augment the soccer fencing there. It was getting cut on a weekly basis so people could pass through from the wash to the park. So we installed the chain link fencing. Ward 4 at Cimarron Rose Community Center, sort of pocket park, we put a new playground shade cloth. And Ward 5 at James Gay, replaced the playground shade cloth there. And Ward 6, we have a new basketball court surface installed. And we'll be moving on to the tennis courts after that. That's all I have. Any questions?
Yeah, questions? Commissioner Sherman?
Commissioner Sherman, thank you, Mr. Glimp. I was going to ask you about Veterans Memorial, the recreational center. My understanding is that there's some construction for a new pool. I'm not sure. I'm getting my information third hand from a neighbor, not from the Parks Department. I heard that the facility is getting a little bit dusty and not being kept up. I didn't know if there really is a construction project going on, and if you could inform us if so.
Sure, I can handle that one. Pat O'Mara, Deputy Director of the department. Yes, we do have our pavilion pool, what is it technically called? Regional Aquatics Complex at Pavilion Pool. That is one of our big SNPLMA projects. Many of you may remember that project coming through. We did break ground in January. It is about a 13-month project, and the contractor is doing what he can, but certainly it is right next door to both pavilion. It's right between the two. So we'll do our best to keep our eyes on it, and get things running as best we can, but certainly it will be a challenge for over a year. Yeah.
Russ Martin, Ward 2. Steve, what's going on with the playground revamp at Kellogg's Air Park?
You're talking about the large playground in the center of the park?
Correct.
Yeah, that is moving forward. I want to say it's scheduled for spring, late spring is when we'll start.
Okay.
We've had a few other playgrounds we're trying to get done and wrapped up before we move on to that one.
Okay, well, that thing, it went from a playground to nothing, and right now you can see it, starting to come together, so.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I had a question, Manager Glimp. Chair Becker. I was kind of curious, I know we have a bird feeding policy now within our parks of the city of Las Vegas, and I was curious to see have the birds kind of moved on, or are we still seeing the same influx of birds? Has it really solved any of the problems that we've been experiencing?
I think over it's been, 4 years now since we've put the policy in place, maybe 5. I think since we've done that, it has lessened gradually over time. We still have issues at some of our parks with big water features like Lorenzi and Floyd Lamb, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. I can say that for sure.
Right.
Yeah, and we have a bunch of kind of non-invasive bird deterrent programs at those two parks that's helping as well.
Great.
So.
And then, Manager Glimp, I had a couple constituents, and I've actually seen this myself, is that in some cases, I think people have responded to not feeding the birds at the parks, but now they're finding new locations to feed the birds, which might explain why the birds are still visiting our parks. I was just curious if this is something that parks could pass along to the city to look into. Maybe there comes a time where we need to have some kind of oversight, or at least a mechanism for people to, if there's like overfeeding in a particular area.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's within the park's preview to pass that forward, or I can look for other avenues.
Yeah, we can definitely have a conversation about it.
Great. Any other questions today? No? Well, thank you so much for your report, as always. Good to see you.
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year. Agenda item number 8 will be a report by Patrick O'Mara, Deputy Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs Director, regarding Recreation Center updates, all wards.
Good afternoon. Pat O'Mara, Deputy Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs. I want to apologize in advance. We had a different version of the PowerPoint, and my computer crashed yesterday, so I don't quite have the same number of slides on here as I normally would, and all that kind of stuff. So I'll address this first slide, even though it was supposed to be second, but I'll address this one while you have it in front of you. We've had some large, I would say large, but when you're talking about 240 staff, maybe not so large, but we did have a voluntary separation program take place in the city over the last several months. These staff were through that process, were required to leave in January. And so we had 6 staff from our department take that early retirement option. Aaron Radke, who many of you saw month after month here, our rec manager, has took that retirement program, as well as 2 of our recreation coordinators, Letty Peters, who most recently was over at the Liebern Senior Center. She had 31 years with us. Priscilla Scott, who had 20 years with us and was over at Becker Tech. One of our rec leaders at Howard Liebern Active Adult Center, Alice Jarvis, had over 25 years with us. We had a program technician, Tanya Barshdorf, who had over 15 years with us. Those are the people who help organize all the sports use of our fields and things like that. So, we'll miss her for sure. And then we had a maintenance worker in Parks and Grounds Maintenance, Ed Scheibel, who had over 20 years with us as well. So a lot of good knowledge, a lot of good workers who have chosen to retire through that process. Because of that, we've had to make some adjustments on how we're staffing our centers. One of our senior recreation leaders, Rosie Nomaya, is acting as a coordinator at this time over at Liebern, and we have offers out right now for recreation leaders who will go and join her. But until that time, Linda Ryan, who many of you may have met in the November meeting when she was talking about the active adult centers, she's her immediate supervisor, and she's relocated her office to provide some significant support to Rosie as she's getting on her feet and until we get some staff over there. And then we've had some shifting, and so at Becker, we have actually relocated our municipal sports unit. So they are taking over the staff areas in one of the rooms, and then we were starting to see a lot of challenges with the programming over there, and so they are trying to infuse some sports into it to draw the kids in. And so there's a little bit of a change over there with method and operations, but we are actually seeing the kids start to come in larger numbers now. So we're pretty happy with that change that took place over the Christmas holiday in December. Other than that, we're a little bit short in a lot of different places through many of these changes that are coming, but we're rallying the troops and we're getting through it as best we can for that. As I mentioned, we do have a couple of recruitments out right now. We have just within the last 48 hours or so offered 2 recreation leader positions to some staff that we're pretty excited about. And they'll come in and help kind of fill in some of those gaps. And then we're actively recruiting right now for the recreation manager position, which Aaron vacated, to provide some leadership on that division. That's where she falls in the grand scheme of things. So we're working through those things, and wanted to let you know that's maybe why you might see some new faces in some new places and those kinds of things, okay? February is Black History Month, and to our knowledge, we are the longest running Black History Month celebration in continuity, certainly within the state, but in our region. So we're active right now. We have an active across the board kind of committee within our department, and we do try and reach out to other departments to get their input as well. And so you'll see, several different things. If you go to the city's website and search for Black History Month, you'll be able to see a little bit about the history of the program, and then there's an opportunity for you to see what programs and events are actually happening here. And so you'll see things like Contemporary West is doing a dance theater production over at Charleston Heights Art Center. The Fifth Street School is doing the 46th annual Midday Inspirational Showcase. So that's essentially it's a talent show where you will have some talented people from the community come out and sing or dance, recite their own poetry, things of that nature, in celebration of the month and their culture. And then we also have some specialty themed lunches and the like over at the Active Adult Center. So our admin team is actually going and helping out on Thursday, where I'll actually somehow be doing something in the kitchen. Don't ask me, I just was assigned to the kitchen. But we do have, Maggie, our director, will be, out in the line serving and those kinds of things. So if you can come by, that is this Thursday, the 6th at 11 a.m. Additionally, we've, as many of you are well aware, we have a new mayor and a new council person, and each department took a little bit of time and actually sat down with them, gave them an orientation to what we do, and the programs we run and the multifaceted department that we have. We were fortunate enough to do it about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and it was well received. Both our new mayor and councilwoman were very pleased, and it was, I think, educational for them at the same time. And so I'm hoping that we have two really great, engaged supporters of what we do and who we are. It certainly seems like it so far. So we appreciate them coming on and being so willing to work with us. Kind of part of that for all of you, some of you may have already been contacted, but they want to actually meet their representatives to this commission. So if you are a Ward 5 representative or a mayoral appointment representative, their offices may reach out, so don't be surprised. It is coming. They want to be able to just sit down with you and have a discussion and see where your goals and aspirations for the department lie versus theirs, and make sure that there's good fusion and that kind of stuff with what they want to see and what you want to see, so that will come in the next, I would say probably by the end of this week, because they were really interested in meeting you guys as we're moving forward. Last thing I had is kind of some of the biggest, most present things that we have, and that's our camp system. We will be running our spring camps from March 17th through the 21st. That is the standard CCSD spring break. And we will be running those, and unfortunately, because I did not have all of my notes, I don't know exactly where, but I believe that it'll be at Stupak, Mirabelli, and Veterans Memorial. We may have Cimarron Rose in there, but please don't quote me. But those are open right now for summer camp. So if you're speaking to anybody, you have kids, you have grandkids that are involved, those are available right now for registration. And we are prepping, as many of you know, summer camp is a really big deal. We have in the past few years, because of trying to offer a multi-child discount to keep costs down for larger families, trying to offer the scholarship program, the financial aid program, and those kinds of things. The unfortunate thing is it kind of bogs down our system a little bit. And so we're trying something new this year where on the first Wednesday of April, we will offer registration for the first 5 weeks of camp. That's May and all of June. And then those who have those who are on the registration list will have an opportunity to register, I believe the next week, it might be 2 weeks later for the remainder of the summer, and then there's a week later, and then it's open registration for the rest of the year. So by May 1st, for sure, everything is open registration. We're just trying to phase in the registrations because the system is a little challenging when you have multiple things in your cart. It's not quite as efficient as like an Amazon, but it does work really well until you get to those multiple kids and things like that. And the challenge is this: when you have your camp, that's one line, and then you have maybe a multi-child discount, that's a second line. Then you have the possibility of financial aid, that's a third line, and you have 3 lines for every week that you're registering, so it might be 11 weeks, plus that for every child that you have. So it does get very big very quickly, and so we're just trying to phase it in a little bit easier and provide the best customer service we can. The last thing we want is for it to just get bogged down and you never know if you actually get in or not and all those kinds of things, which unfortunately was a little bit of a trouble for us last year. So we're trying something new. And of course, you know, our users are always welcome to actually show up at the site and go through the process with our staff versus the online opportunity during that time. So summer camps will begin the week of Memorial Day. That's May 27th is the Tuesday this year. We do not run on the holidays. And then we will go all the way through August 8th, which is the Friday prior to CCSD getting started again in the fall. That's what I have. And I am working on a couple of different things where you will see different sections come in and actually present a little bit more in depth on what they do. So aquatics will come in and spend a little bit more time in this recreation update at some point in the fall after their crazy busy season is over and things like that. So I'm working on those kinds of changes. So hopefully it's not just, here's everything that's happening. And, you know, it's like drinking from a fire hose. So happy to take any questions.
Commissioners, do I have questions? Commissioner Sherman, I see first.
Thank you, Commissioner Sherman, for the record. I just want to state, first of all, that Erin is going to be so missed. She stepped into some pretty big shoes, and she did it with so much enthusiasm. And I also want to say that Letty, who coordinated the classes at the Lieburn Center, she's also going to be so missed. And I'm not sure that I know the other ones that you mentioned. My question is, with all of the changes in staff, and there's been a lot of shakeups, how are you going to handle all the contract instructors and lifeguards coming up? I know that in the city of Las Vegas, there's a lot of issues with staffing pools with lifeguards due to contract expenditure. And I'm just wondering if we'll still have money in the budget to have these quality dance classes and different classes that you offer.
Yeah, so right now, obviously, it's not really a secret. Budget is on everybody's mind. I am working with my 3 recreation supervisors. They have between 5 and 6 of our rec centers each. And you know, they're going through, and I'm working with them, going through all the different programs and things like that on how to continue with the ones that are doing really well, and you know, trying to support the ones that maybe aren't, and where we need to, unfortunately, you know, pull a lever and say, that one maybe has run its course. That's something that's a little new to some of our coordinators, certainly because a handful at least are within their first 3 to 5 years, so it's something challenging for them. But we're working on trying to do it as best we can to protect those programs that really do a great job. You know, we are trying to put together a priority list on that to safeguard all of that. We're putting our priority list on safeguarding our staff and making sure that they can come in and facilitate and even sometimes teach those classes as well. So it certainly is a balancing act, and that's one reason we're moving on the recruitment for the rec manager so quickly. We have I don't want to actually say the number of applications we have, but it's a significant number of applications. And so I have a lot of reading ahead of me of resumes and things like that, but we hope to have that offer out sometime in March and then get them in as quickly as possible. So hopefully that'll help, yeah.
Okay, I think I saw Commissioner Stitt.
Yes, Commissioner Stitt, Ward 4. Could you give us just a short update of where we are with Wayne Bunker? Pickleball court?
So right now, we're waiting on some final approvals of the design from the Department of the Interior. As you know, this is a SNPLMA project, so we are getting a grant from the Department of Interior to build this project. That also means that they have review authority on our plans. Now, we've had to go through, and many of you know, we've had to go through a few edits this last few years with some comments from the community and things of that nature, where we've changed the original scope of the plan since we were awarded the grant to where we are now. We started with 30 courts, now we're down to 24 courts. We started with a certain layout, and now we're moving the parking lot to the southern side versus being between the pickleball area and the existing park. So we've had to make some adjustments on that. It really just, it's the red tape that we all have to deal with, with government. We expect it to go through without issue. It takes time for them to make sure that they're reviewing, and they look at it from the standpoint of, does this still meet the goal and the scope of the project we submitted? Now, we believe it does, because we're still providing this system. We've had to make some adjustments, but we don't think that'll hang it up much.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Are we still in the design phase? Is that what you're saying?
No. They're approving final plans now. Once we get through that and then we're going into permitting and things of that nature, we expect to be in permitting and trying to bid this out sometime in the second quarter of this calendar year. And then I believe it's a 16 to 18 month build out. So we should have it in the region of the end of 2026, which is not too far delayed from our original estimate, but there is a bit of a delay there.
Okay, because last time I remember, I guess it was the end of last year, that we were going to be pulling permits here over the next few months.
Right.
But now we're still doing the design?
No. We're done with design. We're getting the final approval of our design from the Department of Interior now. There's nothing we can do to speed that up. We're just waiting on that. Then we can go immediately into permitting and then bidding.
So there's no estimate, we're just waiting?
Right.
As to when they're going to return their verdict. Okay, thank you.
I think I had Commissioner Cornwell, actually. No?
Burgos.
Burgos.
You want to go?
No, I thought you.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner Burgos.
Thank you. Commissioner Burgos, Ward 6. I have a couple of questions. We had met sometime before the winter break out at Floyd Lamb regarding, improving the equestrian area. So I just wanted to check on the status of that. Has there been any improvements or progress?
We haven't started, moving earth or any of that kind of stuff, but that's something that Steve and I will get back together on. Our trades crew, which would be handling that initial round, has been trying to finish up a lot of those playgrounds that Steve mentioned earlier. And so it is on our radar. It is something we want to move forward with. But it is something that we just haven't been able to take a bite into that project yet.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Okay. I would just like to say that concerning that project, the Forest Service has agreed to give us any wood that we need
Okay.
from the Mount Charleston, so it's all cohesive to this area, so
Okay.
that should help in some way.
Great. Commissioner Vokus?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Vokus, Ward 1, but I have a question, and I'm not sure the ward. Okay. I was at Franklin and Maryland Parkway. That's where I was. And I was asked, what is the destiny of Huntridge Park? Is that on the radar? Is that something that we can see a presentation in the future on to discuss the issues?
I can certainly work on that. It's definitely a challenging property for us. I'm not really sure that I have an answer for you today, but it is something that we can try and provide you with additional detail at another time.
I'm just curious if there's like a neighborhood group that would get involved or a historical group that would get involved to add
And
value to it. And-
There are some that we talk to, but there's a lot to it. So-
Yeah, I realize that.
Commissioner Keller, Ward 3, that's in Ward 3. It's very much a hot topic amongst neighbors having their own division about it. Councilwoman, last I communicated with her on it, was to hold. There's also commercial buildings in the area that also have their own opinion on it being opened. Obviously, safety is top of mind for everybody right now. So I will actually also talk to Councilwoman Diaz and just see if there's an update on that specifically.
Yep, Chairman, if I may, I hate to be that Jim Lewis, City Attorney's Office, where Huntridge is such a, it brings a lot of passion on a lot of sides. And because we're not agendized to speak about Huntridge here, I think we're probably okay for now. But if we continue and have a 15, 20-minute conversation about Huntridge Park, some of those that have passionate feelings about Huntridge might not be appreciative that they weren't advised that we're going to have this conversation amongst this board. So, Chairman, I might just ask that we come back to maybe where the agenda item is. And I think Huntridge, it sounds like the Deputy Director might want to put an item on the agenda for a later date, but that would be my advice to you.
City Attorney, thank you for the input. I concur. If we want to go deeper into that particular subject, it would be probably worthwhile to put that on the agenda. Do we have any other questions? Yes.
Commissioner Burgos, Ward 6. I have a question, I think I've asked this before, on adaptive equipment. I know before you took your position, a couple of $1 million worth of adaptive equipment was purchased for the parks, and I've asked a couple of times where that equipment's gone or where it's going, and if there's some kind of inventory list or something we can make to the public, because I know that often our citizens don't know where equipment is at each park, and it's not just for children, but where, if they're in a wheelchair, there's certain equipment that is adaptable to wheelchairs. It's not just a general adaptive equipment description, so just kind of finding the update on that.
Yeah, we are working on putting that list together to be able to share, and then one of our plans is to actually tag out on the playground listing within our website to say, this one has wheelchair accessible, or it has ramping versus stairs on the play structure or something like that. Now, anything that we're purchasing is for sure compliant, right? For challenging situations as far as mobility. It's not necessarily all designed for, maybe kids in chairs or sensory issues or any of that kind of stuff necessarily. But we are working on trying to identify those pieces in particular and actually put that out on our site to say this is the kind of equipment that you can have when you go to this park. So.
Thank you. Yeah, it would be really helpful, even to have a descriptive of the piece of equipment, because again, different types of equipment, such as the swing that has a wheelchair where you can roll onto it. Not only certain individuals can use that, so I just think it would just be really important. So thank you very much.
And we'll put a future agenda item. Once we get the list together, we'll try and get you some pictures so you can see what we're talking about versus just trying to guess. we'll try and put that stuff together and then bring you an item, bring this to you at a future agenda. So.
Thank you.
Great. Additional questions, commissioners? Yes, go ahead.
Sue-Ann Cornwell, Mayor-elect. I just have a quick question. Is there a way that the public can bring it to your attention, or whose attention do they bring it to that needs, say, a wheelchair swing at a park? If it's one they frequent, how would they go about contacting?
Sure. So the community at large is able to go onto the site and submit a communications request, and then it gets routed, and actually it ends up in Ashley's inbox, and then she tells Steve or myself or whoever needs to know about whatever the situation is. So there is a link on the city webpage for the community to go to for that. They can also reach out, look in the employee directory. If they want to find me, that's fine. If they want to find Maggie, our director, that's fine. And we'll make sure that we get it to the right place. And we'll certainly track those, and as we are making adjustments, we'll consider those adjustments in renovations and retrofits. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Additional questions? No? Deputy Director, the only thing I might add is I am one person who does count all the slides in the deck, and I did notice that you are greatly diminished today, so on your deck presentation. That's a joke. You don't have to put that.
I'll do my
in
best
minutes,
next
but,
time.
Thank you. I keep score. No. Thank you
That's all
again
right.
for that report. You did a great job. Looks like we're doing really great on time today, everyone. So we are on agenda item number 10, report by commission members. Number 9, I just jumped right ahead. Oh, I know why. I made the note in the wrong thing. That's why. If I cross off the numbers ahead of time, we're going to get done in time. Agenda item number 9, review by staff of Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission bylaws and the Parks, Recreation Facilities and Other Facilities, Property Naming, Policy, Procedure, all boards.
All right, for the record, Pat O'Mara, Deputy Director. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about bylaws. This is kind of our February thing that we're going to do, so that everybody is well aware of what your role is here. If you want to follow along with me and you have your binder, it's section 5. You can find the bylaws in there. And you'll see in there, your job is to be our eyes and ears out in the community, to talk to the community, see what they really need, see what their challenges are, what their desires are out in the community, and then bring those to us for us to hear it, and then in some way that we can address it, we will. So you are our sounding board out to the community as well when we're telling you the things that we're working on. And so that's your number one role, is to be the advocate for the community to us, and then bring what we're trying to do back out to them as well. One other item that you guys get to do, and not every other board gets to do this, is you actually get to recommend to the city council to take action on something. And that in particular is our park and features naming process. So anything Parks and Recreation related that we're bringing forward, you all will get, you all will know, hey, we're this far out from the finish of the design, or when we're getting into construction, things of that nature, and then we'll bring a project to you to consider for naming. Now, the standard procedure for that we will talk about in just a moment, but that is another role that you will fill. We'll talk a little bit about membership. So there are 15 seats on this advisory commission, 2 for every ward and 3 that are mayoral appointments. The term is 3 years, and vacancies can occur at any time, and they will be filled by the councilperson or mayor that position is assigned to. There are also
I'm
a
sorry,
few.
Deputy Director, if I could add an addendum that has changed since these bylaws were created, and that is, we still also serve at the pleasure of our city council members and mayors, so we can be replaced at any time despite the 3-year period, just so we're aware.
So you beat me to the punch. Item D there on page 2, if you are following along with me, is removal from office. So obviously, when your term expires, if you don't wish to continue, you're welcome to depart and advocate in another way, and the seat would be filled. Also, if you are absent for 50% or more within a 12-year period or annual from the date period, we can request that you be removed. That is, I think it's 50% without excuse and 75% otherwise. So we can request a removal from you, but what happens then is that the chairperson and the director would then send a memo for the request of the removal to city council, and then that city council person can take that and either decide yes or no on that. And then you can also be removed at any time at the pleasure of the person for whom you represent.
And Deputy Director, if I may, and just so you're all aware, especially newer commissioners, generally speaking, before you get to that point, is we'll do like, let's call it an intervention, where you'll be contacted by city staff or myself and just say, hey, can you please come to the meetings, because our engagement's really important.
Right. Ashley generally will be the person to say, hey, we're just checking in on you, making sure that you're going to be there, those kinds of things, if the attendance is so it's not just, we're going to wait until you get to 50% or anything like that. We're certainly going to try and connect with you and have dialogue with you all along the way. So yeah, we're not, we like working with all of you guys. So we're going to try and make sure we know what's going on. Next item is Article 5, that's the officers. We also dealt with that a little bit earlier this session. There are 2 officers elected or selected by the commission. That is the chairperson and the vice chair, and which you are all aware of. The chairperson, as you can see, runs the meeting, and then the vice chair will step in when necessary, and the chairman is unavailable. The secretary, that's me. It's the director or the director's designee, and in this case, because both of these sections fall under my jurisdiction as the deputy director, I fill that position. And then meetings are no less than quarterly and no more than once a month. You already have your calendar for this year. We did have, I believe it was April, where we were trying to do a tour of a facility. That will not be the case. We will have a regular meeting for all of the meetings that we are not going to go dark for. But if you wish to, and this is an invitation at any time, if you wish to tour a park or a set of parks or a facility, you are welcome to reach out to myself or to Ashley, and we will try and coordinate. Where we were trying to, what we were getting hung up on is some of the fine details of open meeting law, and so we will not be, we're not going to push the envelope or any of that kind of stuff. We're going to make sure it's very clear that we're not going to do a group tour necessarily. Now, 2 or 3 of you we might be able to put together, but again, the invitation is open. If you do want to visit a facility, please reach out to either Ashley or myself, and we will make that happen as we can. Okay. Okay, those are the highlights for the bylaw discussion. One of the, let me actually touch on this one as well. Quorum is 8 because it's just one, it's 50 plus 1%. And then when we are voting, it is based on the population of the quorum. So it doesn't have to be a majority of the board, it's the majority of the quorum. And I think that there was a little confusion about that in a previous meeting, so I wanted to make sure we had mentioned that as well. Yes, sir.
Actually, Deputy Director, actually, I had a question about that particular issue, and it was slightly different. And the question is do abstentions, since they count as a vote, would that negate a simple majority out of, let's say, 8 people? So if we have 4 yeses and 2 nays, but then 2 abstentions, where do we stand? And that's kind of my question in regard to that.
Chairman Hyde, Jim Lewis, City Attorney's Office. Yeah, let me try, the simple answer is this: as long as we have a quorum to get the meeting started, if we have proper abstentions pursuant to 281A 420, then all we need is 3 people to vote, 2 on the yes side and 1 on the no side.
Okay.
But we need the quorum and we need proper abstentions. As you probably all know, and I won't bore you with all details, the law wants you all to vote. When you can, the law wants you to vote. You can't just abstain. You're not supposed to abstain just because you want to abstain. You have to be able to abstain for a reason as outlined in the law and explain why your reason fits within those parameters. If that happens, then it doesn't matter how many people abstain as long as there is a quorum to start our meeting. So 3 or 4 meetings ago, we had a lot of abstentions, and we weren't sure, and there were some people on the phone, and there were some people not here, and we weren't quite sure how many people were voting, but in that case, at that meeting, we had a simple majority to pass the proposition. And so it was good.
Thank you for that clarification. It does, and that was actually the clarification I was seeking after the meeting, was where did we stand, and did I, and I'm glad to hear I did that correctly, where I said that the motion did carry, then indeed the motion would carry in that particular case. Because I wasn't sure about this, whether we needed a simple majority or if we needed a majority of the quorum, and thank you for that.
Absolutely, and there were different rules for the city council and everybody else, but the legislature in the last legislative session, 2 sessions ago, changed it for the city council as well, so what I just told you would apply to them as well.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions about bylaws before I move on? Okay. There's more to them. You're welcome to read them if you can't sleep one night or something. And then there are opportunities. It's a very long process, and Jim will be involved a lot. There are opportunities if you want to suggest an adjustment to a bylaw. But if that were the case, send it, just to us and say, this is a recommendation I might have. We're going to loop in Jim. We're going to have the city attorney's office all over it and make sure that it would be fine. And then we will address that as an agendized item and follow that procedure. They have to be, there is a process to amend them. They have to be heard multiple times, and there's a whole thing, and we can address that if the time ever comes. So.
And just to make things really confusing, part of your bylaws is a special rule on quorums regarding amendment of the bylaws, but we don't need to talk about that.
Great.
All right.
And since this is included in our binder, maybe one off from bylaws, I would like to request that staff provide us a new sheet of all the commissioners, sort of an updated list of contact information, because I was looking at mine just a minute ago, and it's a little off.
Okay,
A little outdated.
we'll work on that.
Thank you. Not to give you guys more work, I'm sorry.
Your binder may have just been skipped by accident. So, but we'll double check them all and make sure that they're as updated as possible. The other
I'm sorry, I have another commissioner question. Commissioner Vokus.
Commissioner Vokitz, Ward 1. Is the group allowed to vote by email?
No.
Do we have to have a declared meeting for us to do business?
The vote is to happen at the meeting.
Okay, yeah, so NRS 241 is really explicit and specific about how meetings occur, and there is no provision in the law for voting by anything other than being present or on the phone, and the question regarding use of phone is always subject to city clerk rules, and right now the city clerk's office is, as far as I know, still allowing for folks under certain circumstances to attend by phone. But there is no provision in the law to allow for voting by email when you're not here.
All right, so we'll move on to the naming policy. Again, this will be one that we kind of review. We will review it when we have an item to just touch on the fine details, but this will be one that we talk about every February. This has gone through many revisions over the years, and it's now now includes all of city properties and things like that. Where you come in is when we have a project coming forward, or when you ask for and the city council person in the ward that the property is, we will start a public outreach campaign, and then I will bring you that data. Now, those of you who were in attendance last spring when we talked about the dog park may remember how I brought it forward. That's my intent, is to tell you, to provide you with all of the names that came forward and actually tell you these are the areas that they came from. So we will have a similar type of presentation as often as I can put them together for you as they move forward. It is then your job to go through, and one of you will make a recommendation on the on name, and then we'll go through the standard voting procedure of discussion and all the things for that vote, and then that vote would then, if it's successful, that item would go to our city council person for them to bring it forward for city council consideration. There are also opportunities in the naming procedure for city manager and the council person just to make that adjustment and things of that nature. But as often as we can, even when it is a substructure, we'll try and bring it to this body for consideration. I think that's all I got.
Great. And the Deputy Director, just for clarification, unless I'm mistaken, we don't actually name the parks. We make a recommendation to the City Council to name
Correct.
the park. They are the only people that have jurisdiction to name a park.
Right.
Correct.
So
Thank you.
they can choose to bring it up and vote on that. They can choose to decide not to. They can, yeah.
And they can vote on a park name without our recommendation. That's perfectly fine, too.
I believe
just
that's
so you
true.
know. We're not blocking anybody.
Okay. The only other detail in there is that when we've made a recommendation or anything like that, if there is a renaming of a facility, when it gets to city council, it needs to be a unanimous vote. That's the only thing that we haven't yet talked about that's a little finer detail in there. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Sir, Russ Martin, Ward 2. This naming policy sheet I was given, it shows that it expired 8/7/2022.
Yes. And we've asked the city manager about that, and what we've been told is that that is to be interpreted as a review date. And so when they put that in, then we maybe don't have there isn't really a newer copy of it, but it is valid until they invalidate it or update it.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions, commissioners? No? I think we're satisfied. Deputy Director, thank you. Hey, we're about 10 minutes over, so do keep in mind as we move to this next agenda item is try to be succinct with any reports or conversation that you might like to have on a report of agenda item number 10, which is a report by commission members regarding park issues and events within their respective council wards and at large all wards. Do I have any commissioners who'd like to say something? Yes, Commissioner Martin.
Okay. Russ Martin, Ward 2. I would just like to ask the commissioners in regards to display of the U.S. flag to become familiar with the proper display. During the 30 days after President Carter's death, the flag was supposed to be displayed at half-staff. I saw 2 incidences during that 30 days where other flags were at full staff while the U.S. flag was at half-staff. No other flag should fly above the U.S. flag. And this is a recurring thing that I have seen happen since 2001 when I moved to Vegas. So just be aware of the proper display. If you see something that's incorrectly displayed, please contact the authority that is responsible for it and ask that it be corrected. Thank you.
Commissioner Burgess.
Commissioner Burgess, Ward 6. Well said, fellow commissioner. I just wanted to, February 15th, 2025, our Love for All Pickleball is being sponsored by Ward 4 and Ward 6. It's at the Durango Hills Pickleball Courts, and it's open for all ages, so I encourage everybody to, if you don't play pickleball, go out there and check it out. But it should be a great event, and we hope to have a veteran coalition attend to play in that. Also in Ward 6, it's not really at a park, but I'm going to talk about it. It's the annual document shredding event, Saturday, March 1st, at Centennial Hills, the YMCA Center from 10 to noon. And I can tell you it's a super popular event because I worked it last year and the lines went down the street. We finally had to cut off the line. So bring out your bundles and your stuff you want to get rid of. So that's it for Ward 6.
Great. Commissioner Cornwell, do you have?
Hi, Commissioner Cornwell. I would just like to give a quick briefing on something that happened at the Healing Garden. So we had 12 people from Uvalde, Texas come. If you guys know, that's where the school shooting was, and they lost 19 people. They were coming to check out the Healing Garden and the Storybook Garden next to it, and they absolutely loved it, and they have decided they are going to build a healing garden in Uvalde, Texas because of it. And they came in and they were very unsure of how they were going to feel, and when they left, they said they felt nothing but love and hope. So that's what our healing garden is doing for the city of Las Vegas. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Then I'd like to conclude this particular agenda item just by mentioning that Councilwoman Victoria Seaman will have a breakfast buzz for Ward 2 on Saturday, February 22nd, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. at Veterans Memorial Center at 101 Pavilion Center Drive. Breakfast will be served. It's a free event. Just RSVP to Ward 2 at lasvegasnevada.gov. And make sure you mention parks when you go. Agenda item number 11, citizens' participation, public comment during this portion of the agenda might be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No subject may be acted upon by the commission unless the subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion of any single subject as well as the amount of time of any single speaker is allowed may be limited. Seeing no one, I just want to add personally, as a citizen, that this is just a dream commission meeting. You guys all did a wonderful job. The engagement was great. You asked great questions and brought new information, and that's a great way to start the new year. I can't thank you enough for that. With that, we'll move to agenda item number 10, adjournment. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.